So, good afternoon to everyone. Thank you for being today with us. And I really would like to say warmly hello to this FFplus Open Call webinar. So, today we are expecting to be together for quite an hour. And today's agenda is to give you the insights and details into the Open Call for Business experiment for the second call that FFplus project is offering. But before that, we will also provide some information about how to access the Euro HPC GU infrastructure that is one of the main supporting infrastructures used by the FFplus projects. And today, I'm Tina Martz. Today, we'll moderate this webinar. And with me, I would say hello to two speakers, Ms. Klara Mestrovic, which is head of the peer review sector at the EuroHPCGO undertaking, and her main area of responsibility is to management of the peer review process related to the EuroHPC access calls. So she will give us information about how access the EuroHPC infrastructure. And afterwards, Dr. Guy Lonsdale, CEO of Scapos, who actually is one of our leaders of the open calls for all this decade of Fortissimo, so experienced expert who actually will talk about the call and also the opportunities that HPC high performance computing actually brought to SMEs also in all the past decades. So Fortissimo, well-known project running for more than a decade, which offers a great opportunity to European SMEs and also this addition to the startups who would like to explore the opportunity of utilizing HPC and AI for their real cases or real business challenges. I would like also to inform you that this webinar will be recorded, also provided afterwards on the FFplus website. So please stay muted so we can enjoy the talks. And after each presentation, you will get an opportunity to unmute yourself, ask a question, or either you can always put your question in the chat box below. So enjoy the webinar, and I will now leave the floor to Ms. Klara.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Tina. Let me share the screen.
Great.
Will you see the correct one?
Yeah. Just go ahead. Thank you very much.
Good. Okay, so thank you for inviting me to this webinar. So my name is Klara Mestrovic, as Tina mentioned, and I will give an overview on the access opportunities that we provide here in the EuroHPC JU. So this is an overview slide of the presentation. Besides the great projects that we fund, as Fortissimo is, the mission of the JU is also oriented on the infrastructure procurement. So we procure world-class supercomputers and now as well AI factories and quantum computers. So besides these parts of the mission is also to provide access to this infrastructure, which is very important. And how do we provide this access is we do it in a structured way. And we have several different access modes, yes, to provide this access. And also these access modes are different from one another, also to cover wide range of potential use cases and needs of users. In order to provide a transparent and fair access, we do have an established peer review process for per access mode. So we will dig into this, and this has been an overview. So the first thing that I mentioned is the infrastructure. So what is the available infrastructure? So first to mention is the HPC supercomputers that you may have probably heard of already. So at the moment, we have 5 operational petascale systems, Vega in Slovenia, Carolina in Czech Republic, Deucalion in Portugal, Discover in Bulgaria, and Meluxina in Luxembourg. We also have 3 pre-exascale systems, Lumi in Finland, Mare Nostrum in Spain, and Leonardo in Cineca. We will very soon have also our first exascale system, which is Jupiter, located in Germany in Jülich. And we have several upcoming systems, another exascale system, Alice Recoq in France, and several mid-range systems. Then for sure you have heard about the HPC AI factories. So this is something that is upcoming. So 13 new AI factories will be procured. And as well to mention the quantum computers. In this framework, we are not providing access yet. However, it is possible that we will start doing this from this year, so this will be as well something very new. So not to forget to mention our quantums, and there should be 10 quantum systems upcoming as well. Okay, so the access modes that we have, so this will be again an overview slide of the access mode before going into depth of each. Before we just had these 4 access modes that you can see, these we now rebranded into traditional HPC access calls. This is of course after the big change in AI came and we introduced new AI access modes. So these are now these 4 calls have been running from 2021. They're very well established, and these are benchmark development, regular access, and extreme scale access. And then, of course, now the calls for AI applications, and we call them now AI factory access calls. So here we have 4 different access modes. One is intended for scientific applications, which is AI for science and collaborative EU projects access mode. And then we have playground, fastlane, and large-scale access mode, which are intended for industrial applicants. Of course, before going into depth of each calls, I have to provide some information on the eligibility. So I believe this slide is quite inclusive. As you can see, we are open to all fields of research and as well open to all types of entities. So from industrial enterprises and SMEs to academic and research institutions and as well public sector organizations. In case of traditional HPC, we also have resources reserves. So as you can see here below, for industry access track, we have 20% of resources reserve or prioritization. And for scientific, this is 75 and 5% for public administration access track. So who is eligible to access our machines? So here, well, you will see on the right side, I would say that it's a bit complicated wording coming from our regulation. I will try to simplify it. Basically, the infrastructure that is funded through the Horizon 2020 program, which is our petascale machines, basically our currently operational infrastructure, petascale machines and re-exascale machines, applicants affiliated with affiliations located in the list of Horizon 2020 countries can access these systems. For new systems like Jupiter and upcoming infrastructure, this list will be expanded to the Horizon Europe list. So there are several more countries in addition to the previous Horizon 2020 list. And here we have as well another criterion, which is that the principal investigators or project leads should have the employment contract 3 months after the end allocation date on the same affiliation. One important thing to mention, which is very much the eligibility for industrial type of applications, is that the principal investigators in case of traditional access modes and as well as project leads in case of industrial innovation access modes must be affiliated with an industry organization. We are, of course, open that the team members the collaborations can be, of course, are open to all types of entities, but the project lead really has to be from an industrial organization. So it's a mandatory requirement. Okay, and now we go into the depth of our access modes. So for traditional HPC access modes, we have access modes for preparatory activities. These are the benchmark access and development access. Both are serving to perform code scalability tests, and in case of development access for development and optimizations of the codes. The duration can be 2 to 3 months in case of benchmark access, and for development access, 6 to 12 months. Assessment time is usually 2 weeks after the cutoff date, and we have monthly cutoffs, so basically 12 cutoffs a year. There are plenty of opportunities to test the codes. For production activities, we have extreme scale access and regular access. Extreme scale access is intended for really extremely large allocations, and the peer review process lasts the longest in this case, and it's about 6 months. For regular access, this is as well for applications requesting large allocations, and the evaluation time is around 4 months. So it's a little bit more lightweight, but still quite extensive. So what actually happens with your proposal once it's submitted to the extreme scale access call? So we first perform the administrative check, and those proposals that are successful, they proceed to further steps. Those that are not administratively accepted and basically are rejected, and they can reapply basically immediately. Those that are successful proceed to the technical assessment, which is executed by our hosting entities. Then to the scientific evaluation. This is performed by 3 external scientific reviewers on the domain of the proposal. After this, the applicants have opportunities to respond to reviews, to respond to both technical and scientific reviews. All of this is then taken into consideration, and 2 panel members are assigned to each proposal. And then in this case, they write 2 individual and 1 consolidated report based on all the findings so far on each proposal. All of this goes to the Access Resource Committee meeting, where the proposals are ranked and recommended for funding altogether. And the results of the Access Resource Committee meeting proceed to the Resource Allocation Panel meeting, where we actually allocate the resources. After this meeting, the results from this meeting are the official results of the call that proceed to our governing board, and this is usually takes about 2 weeks. This is the moment when we start receiving questions from the applicants. What about my proposal? And this is basically the last 2 weeks. That is for the written procedure that the governing board approves the results. And then we, of course, after we receive this confirmation, we communicate the results to the applicants. In case of regular access, we proceed in a very similar way. So we have an administrative check, we have the technical assessment, but then we skip the scientific evaluation and the response phase. In this case, we proceed to the rapporteur reporting steps. So again, there are 2 members assigned to each proposal. Here, I must add that the proposals are individually also discussed within their domains, and then later as well discussed during the Access Resource Committee meeting. Again, the rankings of the meeting are proceeded to the resource allocation panel meeting, which the results are proceeded to the governing board for approval. In case of benchmark and development, this is very straightforward. These 2 steps, the administrative check and technical assessment, are both covered by the hosting entities and are done simultaneously. So a little bit on the planning, where we are with regard to the traditional HPC access modes. So these are all the cutoffs that we had, not mentioning the benchmark and development, because of course there will be a lot from 2021 since they are monthly. But this is the status from regular extreme scale, and as well here we are mentioning another access mode that has been discontinued now, considering that we have new AI factory access modes and has somehow been rebranded for AI for science. But these were the cutoffs before, when it was the AI and data intensive applications access call. So we currently have extreme scale access April cutoff under evaluation, and the regular access March 2025 cutoff under evaluation. And the two new upcoming cutoff dates are 17th of October for extreme scale and regular access 5th of September. Okay, and now we proceed to the AI factory access modes. So these are the three access modes for industrial innovation. So we have playground access. This is for entry-level users, and this here it's intended for testing, playing around, as the name suggests. The applicants can get a fixed allocation up to 5,000 GPU hours. The evaluations are done on rolling basis, and the results should be communicated to within 2 working days after the proposal submission. The applicants can request the project duration 1, 2, or 3 months. For fast lane access, here the applicants can get a little bit more resources, so 50,000 up to 50,000 GPU hours. The results are within 4 working days. The duration is the same as the playground access, and it's intended for users that are already familiar with HPC environments. Then we have the large-scale access. Here, as the name suggests, is for larger allocations. So it's for larger allocations than 50,000 GPU hours. We have 2 cutoff dates per month, so this ensures very fast response time. Meaning this is within 10 working days after the cutoff date. The duration can be 3, 6, or 12 months. So what happens again with the proposal submitting to these access modes? So for large-scale access, the office performs the eligibility check. Here we come back to the eligibility that the project lead has to be affiliated with an industrial organization, also coming from Europe. Then the proposal proceeds to both technical assessment and industrial innovation group evaluation. Then each AI factory sends the results and the ranking list to the office that we consolidate and proceed to our executive director for approval. Those proposals that are, of course, ranked successfully and are approved, we communicate the results as successful. For fast lane access, this is more straightforward. This is eligibility checks and technical assessment performed by the AI factory simultaneously, and the same thing happens to the playground access. So eligibility check and technical assessment. Just to as well mention that the technical assessment, as well as the industrial innovation group activities, they are all somehow done by the AI factories. They have their own experts, and we are the ones just communicating the findings of their evaluation. For the AI factory access modes for science, so this is the process. Basically, it remained the same as we had from the previous version of this call. So in this case, this call is also open to all types of entities, including industrial users. It should just be more focused on scientific research. The allocations are granted for 6 months in this case, and the results are within 1 month after the cutoff date. In this case, we have 6 cutoffs per year, so every 2 months. The process is we proceed with the administrative check first. Those that are successful proceed to the technical assessment and expert evaluation. After we have results from both technical and expert evaluations, we consolidate the results and basically communicate the results to the applicants. So this is the planning basically until the end of the year, how it will look. So quite busy, if I may add. This is of course in parallel with the traditional HPC access modes as well. Playground access, fast lane access, they do not have any cutoffs, so it's rolling submissions, rolling evaluations. For large scale access, as you can see, we are now evaluating projects submitted this month until this Monday. And the submission period is now open for the cutoff of 30th of June. AI for Science, we are still now receiving projects until 20th of June, and they are the following cutoffs that will happen until the end of the year. So before giving some conclusions, I would like to highlight also the support services that can be asked while applying and also independently. So we have the Epicure projects that provide high-level support teams for applicants, and in this case, what is important to add, this only works when you are actually submitting a proposal. It is available in all access modes for traditional HPC. Minerva is a bit different. So Minerva is again for providing support for AI applications in this case, but it's not connected to the proposal submission. So it can go both ways. It can also be with the proposal submission. Basically, the staff from Minerva can be contacted at any moment to help with the applications. And the last thing that I would like to add here are some guidelines and advice for future applicants. So I would like to highlight to pay attention for our website, especially regarding the new calls, because it's also very new for us. So we will publish and refresh the information for sure. Periodically, also to pay attention for the eligibility criteria, especially in case of industry users on the organization country and organization type. Also to provide a valid VAT number, we do check this, that it's a valid company. Then to fill in the application forms, especially in cases of the AI factory access modes for industrial innovation, where we do not have project templates, so it's just the online form. So to provide the most details that you can, so the evaluators can better assess your proposals. Also to have a considerable number of team members, not to go overboard, even though we do not have a restriction on this one. This is just a friendly advice. Also to ensure that the codes can run, to use either playground access on benchmark or development access. To do that before, to plan the resources usage carefully, we do encourage homogeneous usage, which is then helpful, of course, for the HPC centers and for the users. To take the provided feedback from the Access Research Committee and as well as the Industrial Innovation Group and technical experts into consideration, especially in case the proposal was rejected. So for future resubmissions, to communicate any issues to us and to the centers. And the last but definitely not least is to submit the final reports 3 months after the end allocation date. So just a closure, we have an upcoming event in Copenhagen on user days, which will be very interesting, I believe. So of course you're invited if you are able to join. And that's it for me. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, Clara. So in the next steps, so what is here? We have some questions already in the chat. So I already provided you the link to the Euro HPC GU access call, so you can check the link and find the information about the calls that were mentioned right now. But if we start with the questions, so what is the time needed for processing Euro HPC GU application for regular access?
So it's 4 months after the cutoff date.
Okay. Thank you very much. The next one goes, it is possible to apply with a partner and how much involvement, time or money it requires for the partner. So I'm not sure if this is actually the information or the question for the access. So for the, I would leave this for the next or at the end of the second presentation where the open call information will be provided. So I would continue with the second one. So for an FFplus project, what forum of access to Euro HPC do you recommend?
I'll go into that later.
Okay, Guy, thank you.
And similarly, we'll discuss the FFplus Call and the HPC access modes similarly in my presentation. I'll try and explain how the expectations of the project fit in with the calls. We were very grateful for Clara that she came today and explained all the details. So thank you, Clara, again.
Definitely. And maybe we can try to answer one more question from Mr. Robert. So are the FFplus Call and an HPC access mode mutually exclusive?
So no.
No, it's not. So maybe do you have any further questions for Ms. Clara about the Euro HPC GPU infrastructure or any matters related to the access to it? Otherwise, thank you again very much for your presentation and all information. Wish you a pleasant day and
To you as well.
yeah, and good luck with all the assessments. And now we shall continue with the second part of the presentation. So I will give the floor to Dr. Guy Lansdale. So it's time to present the FFplus Open Call for Business Experiments. So Guy, go ahead.
Okay, so welcome to the main body of the webinar. Thank you again to Clara for presenting the access themes. We put that up first because Clara had to leave for another meeting. In fact, the topic fits into the sort of second half of the presentation that I'm going to give. So I'm going to be talking about the second call for business experiments, addressing the uptake of HPC by SMEs. And I'll explain in a little while what we mean by business experiments. We have a particular understanding of that. So what I will do is I'll give you an introduction to the Fortissimo approach and the past projects. As Tina mentioned, there's been a history of these projects, and go into details about the success stories and the business innovation that we target. And then I'm going to focus explicitly on type 1 of the call 2, the business experiments addressing uptake of HPC. And I'll explain the objectives, the expectations, funding and eligibility, which includes the expectations for computing resources. And then I will finish off with some summary of the information sources and the submission procedure. After which we have a Q&A, and I would expect that we turn the recording off for the Q&A session. So we're not planning to post your questions on the internet. So a history lesson. Fortissimo and Fortissimo 2, they go back some time, so it's over 10 years ago. The first Fortissimo project ran from 2013 to 2016, was in Private Program 7. Fortissimo 2 followed on from that, slightly overlapping, was in Horizon 2020. And there was a political context. When we started the first project, we were just recovering from the financial crisis, and the European Commission wanted to support European industry and manufacturing. So the first projects were actually linked to a program for the Factories of the Future initiative. And therefore, we had a very strong focus on manufacturing SMEs. The picture on the right, I particularly like. It's one of our friends, Mark Parsons from EPCC, explaining to Monsieur Barnier, famous for being recently in French Prime Minister, and before that in charge of Brexit, explaining at a Hanover trade fair about the Fortissimo projects and using a rather smart motor car as an example. But the point wasn't showing smart cards, but it was actually explaining the business impact of doing HPC and trying to benefit the European industry through the exploitation of HPC. And that's what it's all about. And making sure that actually the investment that Europe was making in HPC was not just for academia, it was also for industry. We followed up with that with the FF for your HPC project. So FF stands for Fortissimo, of course. Fortissimo for your HPC. And that also had quite a focus on manufacturing, but not only. And what we'll see, one of the topics we'll see is that there's quite a migration or development from original manufacturing processes, manufacturing computing, which was very often modeling and simulation, through data analytics and now to AI applications. And we'll see that later with examples. So what's Fortissimo really about? What it's not about is performing blue sky research. We are not looking for academic exercises. We're not really trying to support academia and research organizations. We're trying to support SMEs. And the mechanism we have is that we perform, so we fund sub-projects. In the past, they were all called business experiments because we're asking SMEs to bring a business challenge and then with some support from others show that HPC can help them solve that business challenge. You'll see in a couple of minutes that that's changed a little bit. It's been extended, which is why FFplus is called FFplus. But the bulk of the funding in our projects goes to these SME-oriented activities. And of course, we want to support those SMEs. We want them to get benefit and business benefit from doing the work. Well, that's only part of the story. The big part of the story is promoting the use of HPC and now HPC and AI to the ecosystem of SMEs in Europe. So the big story is a set of success stories to show to SMEs, these companies managed to get real business benefit from HPC, you could too. We want to promote to the whole ecosystem in Europe. This is something that's beneficial for you or potentially beneficial. It's not just about big science. It's not just about academia. It's about solving real business problems with commercial targets. And we've published then in the prior projects over 120 success stories showing what can be done with a variety of application areas, from farming to design of complex apparatus, and via urban planning and looking at wind patterns or pollution within cities. And I'll show you a couple more examples. But that's the big story, that the main mechanism is to generate success stories to convince other SMEs that HPC is something for them. So some examples, I've got just two examples of business benefits. This is one looking at additive manufacturing and the design of the process and improving the process. And what you don't see on this slide are speed up graphics, scaling factors. What you see is why did they do it and what did it mean? It meant shortening delivery time for products to customers, reducing costs in production, getting a better design through better accuracy, and at the end of the day, creating new jobs. Those are the business benefits, not how well does my simulation code scale. And a range of not just the usual suspects of manufacturing, but also a range of different sectors can benefit. This is one case in aquaculture. So we're actually using HPC and AI to improve the aqua farming and improve the situation for the fish behavior and growth, and enabling the commercial operation to make better business decisions. So using AI and HPC. We have a whole range of different success stories. We have a large booklet from the first two projects and also one from FF for your HPC, where you can see a range of different applications where SMEs explain what the benefits were for them. And we would really recommend you have a look at those. And there's some Really interesting presentation. There are some quite exciting, fascinating videos about the applications that have been done before. So now to the consortium. Those of you who have seen FF projects or Fortissimo projects before will recognize most of these partners. CypherNet joined us for FFplus. And what's also new is that we're inside the Digital Europe program. It's a 4-year project, and it's led by the University of Stuttgart HRS. And what are our objectives? The global political objective is to empower SMEs and startups through the use of computational capabilities, helping them to improve in innovation. I will go into details about the two types. The plus means that there are some changes compared with the past historic Fortissimo projects. And the big change you see there is we got 2 types of sub-projects that we're funding. We'll be running 6 open calls. We held the first open call last year. And we have business experiments and innovation studies starting. I'll explain what those are. And the overall funding for the budget for all those 6 calls is approximately 24 million euros. I'm going to focus today on the business experiments because that's the topic of the first sub-call for call 2 in this year. And as I've said before, this is about addressing uptake of HPC by SMEs. The other type of sub-projects is coming, the second call is coming later this year, and that's very different than what we saw before. It's not about performing a business experiment, but it's about developing technology. So business experiments solve a business challenge using HPC, introducing HPC to SMEs. Here we typically have highly proficient SMEs in AI with HPC know-how, but they don't have the large-scale computational resources that they need to scale up their business. So that's what's different about the innovation studies, and I'm not going to say much more about them today. I'll give you some examples, some information about what happened in the first call. So we had a lot of proposals, 126 from all across European countries and associated partners. We were able to fund 19, so that gives you a little bit an idea. This is very much a competitive call, and we can only take the very best, the top-rated proposals for funding. There is a focus on SMEs, as you see here. The funded sub-projects are involving 34 SMEs. It's all about SMEs. The other organizations are there to help, but you're not our concern. Our concern are the SMEs. And I just said that. 79% are SMEs. And that's the main objective. So that's why we're doing. Our objective is to support SMEs in the projects, in the sub-projects, and in Europe in general, in the ecosystems. We had a lot of, a quite range of application domains, and here you can see the spread of different topics and different domains covered by those top-rated proposals that we were able to fund. And we had, in that case, a particular focus on engineering and manufacturing, but also health, quite a number of health proposals. What has changed a lot is that in the past, I think computer-aided engineering was the bulk of this experiments we had. Now that's no longer the case. Now the majority of proposals, majority of funded sub-projects are actually looking at AI, machine learning, and deep learning, and use of those technologies. So it's not about, in the business experiments, they're not, the concentration is not to develop those technologies, but make use of them to solve business problems, business challenges for the SME. Quick overview, one slide on innovation studies. We had quite a lot of proposals also from across Europe, 62 proposals, and we're currently funding 18 innovation studies. So let's now focus on the business experiments and what do you need to do, what do you need to take into account if you want to apply to the open call. So the deadline is August 26th at 1700 CEST. The duration of the business in time to allow the new business experiments to start on January 1st. Available in this call is an indicative budget of 4 million euros. That's funding. We have a special definition within FFplus, and it's the main participant. The main participant is the SME whose business challenge drives the work. So that's the definition of the main participant. And main participants may only participate in one type of sub-project. If you read the documentation carefully, this is actually self-explaining why that is the case, but only either you take part in type 1 or type 2. The objectives. I don't know how many times I've mentioned business challenges already, but I'll do it again. The proposal should address the uptake of HPC by an SME to solve specific business challenges. And very importantly, they should have had no prior use of HPC or experience of HPC. So if they've been working on HPC in a prior project, that excludes them from being funded in the call. And as I mentioned already, the key output is actually the success story, because we're going to use those to demonstrate to other SMEs that HPC use makes sense. And it makes sense not just for getting scaling results, but actually solving a business problem. We don't have any restrictions on the type of application domains. The priority is the business impact that you expect to generate, but we're not targeting research-oriented SMEs. So we define that context. If you're really in the research sector and that's your business, that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for real business, commercial uptake. And of course, we want to target the widening of HPC use within Europe. So coming to the expectations, we clearly define the objectives we have. Please be aligned with those. Explain and justify your business challenge and why you need HPC. If you don't need to use HPC, then you're in the wrong place. The proposal doesn't fit. This project is about showing HPC can make business impact. You need to have that in your proposal. You need to explain the expected business impact and the value creation. So define your specific objectives accordingly and include support partners as necessary. It is possible to have a single organization consortium. I would sort of say this is quite challenging if you don't have prior HPC know-how or experience to address an HPC-oriented business experiment. Rather difficult, but it's not excluded. But if you define a consortium, make sure that you understand what all their roles are and that you actually need each of the parts. You need to define the resources that are necessary to meet your objectives. You have to budget for those resources. And I'm going to say a lot more about HPC computing resources. As I've mentioned, there is a growing contribution of AI or machine learning related applications within the set of business experiments. They very often bring in data protection issues. So it's your job to make sure that you define those issues within your work plan, that you have mechanisms involved to be conform with the EU law, and that your experiment conforms with the EU law. That's your job, it's not ours. So you cover the data protection issues. We do need you to support the project in generating publisher success stories, and they will be in multimedia form. So we are looking for interesting video contributions, text contributions, not scientific nerdy text, but business impact text, that sort of thing you'll see in the existing success stories. We do want to be complementary to past experiments. So in a general sense, if you're duplicating something that's been done before, then you would expect not to be rated as highly as something that's very new or addressing something we haven't seen before. so that's an advice to be complementary. So now I have 2 slides on HPC computing resources. When I repeat this webinar, I will be adding in the presentation from the GU at this point. We have an expectation that you use the HPC resources provided under the JU's access schemes, or the access modes we heard about earlier. Those services are provided free of charge. So that is one major issue. Those services are being provided. We've heard about the 2 types of access schemes. When I wrote the text for the call, they were still called some supercomputer access policy and AI factories. We've just seen that the name's been changed. Another important point to make is if you are using nationally provisioned HPC resources, also provide free of charge, that's equivalent. So either JU systems or nationally provided systems. And you would, whether or not these access schemes fit to your needs depends on your type of application. As we heard, the AI factories access schemes are for AI applications, and the other types of applications would fall under the HPC use schemes. If you were looking for support in the proposal phase, then the national HPC competence centers are able or will be able to help you with that, and they are interested in doing so. So they've been very active in the past in supporting proposals and supporting the project, gathering in a good set of proposals. So do reach out to your NCCs, your local, your national NCCs. So unfortunately, FFplus cannot provide you resources, and we do not have any special allocation of time on the systems, which is why we ask the GU to prevent the access schemes that are there. The standard access schemes provide the GU are the access schemes you will need to use with your sub-project. If you do not do so, and the call text format in the way, you have to justify the decision not to do so. If you do not do so, then the use of third-party commercial resources is permissible. You have to suitably justify the choice, and of course, you have to budget for the costs within your business experiment budget. Similarly, the use of resources by an organization within your consortium, for example, an HPC center, is permissible. Again, justify the choice. And be careful how you charge the costs. So the costs of charged HPC resources, if they provide them for free, it's not an issue for us, it's their issue. But if they're charging them, they have to be based on actual costs and not commercial rates, so a cost basis. And they are to be charged against the budget of the partner providing those HPC resources, not charged internally within your consortium. That's not allowed. Okay, so those are details, and have a look at the slides later on. I think we'll be putting the slides online as well. Eligibility criteria. I've already mentioned it. The experiments should be a business challenge of an SME new to use of HPC, and that SME can only take part in one experiment as main participant. The main participant is the SME that drives the experiment, and supporting participants are the other organizations needed to do the work. So need to do the technical work necessary to achieve the objectives of the experiment. Applications, proposals may be submitted by one or more, multiple main participants if they share a business challenge, and optionally one or more supporting participants as needed. But each of the partners should have a very clear role within the consortium. And the maximum number of partners is 5. So the total maximum number of partners in the consortium is 5. Which organizations can participate? This comes down to, well, obviously, you have to be an SME, so you will have to confirm that your company status is that of an SME. And either you come from an EU member state, or you come from a country which is associated to the Digital Europe programme, and that association was in force at the time that this grant agreement for FFplus commenced. So the grant agreement started in 1st of May 2024, and that all countries associated with the Digital Europe programme at that point in time are valid. We do not fund individuals, so we fund organisations. This is slightly different than the definition of principal investigators in the Access Scheme, but we fund organisations. Those organisations will be signing a contract with the University of Stuttgart. And finally, all the FFplus beneficiaries know this, but if you are talking to any of them, they are not eligible to participate, either as a main partner or as supporting participants. So FFplus beneficiaries cannot be involved. So what about the funding conditions? Well, the third parties, or you as proposers in your consortium, will receive 100% funding of the costs, but only direct costs. So there are no indirect costs allowed. We already mentioned 15 months maximum duration. There is a maximum funding budget of 200,000 euros for consortia, for a business experiment as a whole. The maximum funding per organisation is 150,000. And for supporting participants that may, in principle, participate in multiple business experiments, that limit of 150,000 applies to all the business experiments in which, across all FFplus calls in which they participate. We expect actually it's the main participant that is receiving the bulk of the funding. So in principle, at least 50% should be going to the main participant or participants. And if you deviate from that, you need to fully justify that choice and the reason for it. For supporting participants, we're only looking to support engineering or technical activities. So only those activities are eligible for funding. So no business consultancy, marketing initiatives, administrative tasks, or any other non-engineering, non-technical tasks. So such things are not eligible for funding. If you provide it for free, that would obviously be okay. What types of costs are we supporting? And we read the note at the bottom first. This table does not include subcontracting, and thus it is ineligible for funding, so no subcontracting. We cover personnel costs, that they should be in commensurate with the work done, work to be performed. Depreciation costs of equipment that is special to the need of the experiment. So we don't pay for standard equipment such as laptops or monitors, etc. Those are not eligible. Travel needs to be justified in terms of performing the work of the experiment. HPC compute capacity we've just been discussing. So ideally using fee-free Euro HPC resources or national resources, and justify why you're going to take a different strategy if you choose to do so. Other costs. We cover costs for acquiring specialized software licenses needed to do the work, but obviously not your general MS Office or Linux operating system costs that you might have. So no general office software. If you need to pay for accessing data sets or collections needed for the experiment, that's also valid. So how do we evaluate the proposals? This has not changed for quite some time. We have 4 categories, and they're all equal except the impact is more equal. Impact is scored double. So each criterion gets a score of maximum 5 points. Impact has a double score. So that means the maximum score available is 25 points. We do apply a threshold. So we apply a threshold. You need a minimum of 3 points to be eligible for funding, which applies to impact, excellence, quality of the consortium. And the detail is If we perform a ranking of all proposals and choose the top proposals from that, and then of course we have to deal with situations where proposals are ranked equally, and here you see the priority, impact, excellence, quality of consortium resources, and then finally, if it gets down to the last few euros, then we will look at all the points are absolutely equal. We would fund the business per experiment proposal that is asking for less funding. Okay, some of this I've already mentioned. Submission deadline, 26th of August, $1,700. Submissions are all in English, and it's purely electronic submission. Here's the link to the web page where you can, through that page, you will find your way into a proposal submission tool. What you need to do there is upload 2 documents. The first is a spreadsheet with the administrative information. And the second one, which has the bulk, the core of your proposal, is a PDF document. We provide a Word document as template. We ask you to use that. And from that, you can generate PDF. There is a maximum, there's a limit on the number of pages. And it's strict, so please, please adhere to that. 10-page maximum plus a cover page. If it's more, we will reject it without evaluation. Part A, if you put extraneous information there, it will be deleted before we pass it on to the expert evaluators. So we're getting to the end, sort of wrapping up now. Again, here's the link to the open call area, and there are a number of documents provided. The first given here is the definitive document defining the rules for the call announcement and proposals guide. We expect that you use the proposal templates provided, and then we have some further information with a set of frequently asked questions and a checklist. So the frequently asked questions are, we have gathered these over time. These are the questions we typically get through the webinars, through direct email. And we're repeating those for you so you can see what other people have already answered. The proposer evaluator checklist is an interesting document, or should be, because we provide it to our expert evaluators. So you, the proposers, can see the questions we ask the experts to answer. And if they're the ones that they have to answer, have a good look at whether or not you believe you're answering them in your proposal. And of course, on the web page there, you have access to the proposal submission tool. If after reading all the FAQ and looking at the checklist, you still have questions, then we provide the email given here where somebody from the Scapos team will respond to your questions. What we do not do is answer questions about content. So yeah, here's this thing. I want to do simulation around a pair of glasses in a case. Is that okay? Sorry, can't answer that one because that's your business case, your business challenge. You should be choosing the problem that you need to solve using methodologies that make sense for what you want to do. That is not something we're going into details about. So we don't review proposals and we don't go into content, but we do answer questions about the generic policy, computing resources. So information, inspiration, I think it really makes, it's very useful to look at the information on the FFplus project, on LinkedIn and YouTube videos. There's some really great videos there. There's a lot more information on the project website, and you can sign up for the newsletter. With which I would pass back to Tina and go into the Q&A. And as I said, Tina, I think we should stop the recording at this point.
Yeah, agree.